All right, welcome to episode 21 of my live stream. We had this kind of crossover with Corey's show, and so I'm going to check real quick with him just to make sure it didn't cut him off. So I'm going to say, are you guys live still? Just to make sure we're not conflicting on our streams. And then I might have to just really quickly double check my stream just to make sure that that's working. And I think it is. And we've just kind of solved, if that's the case, we've just solved a completely possible conflict that's kind of good to know about. So let's see here. I just need to make sure I'm live on YouTube. Oh, look at that. I am. Perfect. That's great. Okay, cool. So okay. So anyhow, if you guys are at all interested in like animation and that kind of fun stuff, check out Breaking the Chains, which is streaming right now as well. And in the meantime, I'm going to be working on and that's live on Corey Kerr's channel. In the meantime, I'm going to be working on thumbnails. I have like a couple I got to do. I'm going to try to do 2 pages of thumbnails. I might just do like 2 streams. We'll see how far I get. And what am I thumbnailing? I'm doing these roughs / thumbnails for 2 stories, book 2. 2 stories, book 1 is this. And it's a memoir about faith and mental illness by myself. And it's a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. So there we go. Sweet. So I'm going to basically get moving on the thumbnails for the next section, and we'll see how far I can get and how much I can kind of keep my mind off of political stuff. Because like we recently just had a giant impeachment trial that's been running for the last few days, and it just kind of wrapped. And so that is heavily on my mind. And so I'm hoping to kind of avoid discussing that too much. All right, so okay, I just basically spoke to Corey, and now I'm going to basically get working on this. The section that I'm working on right now is we're basically talking to a police detective about how to deal with our neighbor. They've had us fill out a restraining order and then basically said the thing is pointless. And now we're going to be basically so this is the previous page. The thumbnails from the previous page, which are for page 93. And what I do is I copy over the old PSD file, and then I use these different panels to try to have something I can reference as I'm working. Because when you're working sequentially, it's important to have like previous pages at the ready so that you can kind of make sure you're being consistent with your sequential art. So, okay. So the last page ended on this statement of, is moving a good idea, or am I just blowing this out of proportion? And then basically we're gonna talk about it. About the next, like basically the answer to that will be on the next page. So here we go. I'm also working on the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge, which is the challenge where you're supposed to do at least 30 minutes a day working towards your comic goals. And I'm on day, oh my gosh, 13 plus 31. So that'd be 45 of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge. And I'm hoping to get some work done to kind of catch up because I am a little behind where I'd like to be. Okay. So let me see. All right, let's see here. I asked if moving was a good idea or if I was blowing it out of proportion. Here we go. So this is going to say, you know what, this might actually need to be a wider panel frame because this is going to be a lot of text. So I think I'll do one of those half panels, might cut it. All right. Anyhow, it's been a relatively fun day today. I spent a lot of time playing the old NES Techno Bowl with my son. He's like really into it. It's like, you know, an old 16-bit Nintendo football game. And it's actually kind of neat because I think it's kind of teaching him a little bit of the rules of football. So, but it's definitely not like a Madden type game where it's got a lot of complicated plays and stuff. It's a pretty basic game, but it's a lot of fun. And it's kind of neat seeing him get all passionate about the game and super into it and stuff. So, okay, here we go. Now he's going to be sent, the police officer is responding to that question for panel 1. Look, you get what? There's a reason. And I apologize for the silence. It's just when I'm like writing things out, it's very hard to like write and talk at the same time. But I'll get into some stuff, I think. Okay, there's a reason the area about. This is a lot of text. I'm almost wondering if I should break it or just have the whole. Okay, I think because this is the first panel on the next page, I need it to be another one of these kind of longer shots. But in this case, I want it to be the police officers here. Okay, kind of think I have it worked out. So I'm going to have him sort of explaining. Okay. So it's been an interesting day because I started off like yesterday. I was just completely exhausted from the entire week, and then today I'm like slightly behind on like everything that I need to get done, and so it's just been like a day of like hoping to play catch up, and that's kind of my hope tonight. But also like writing that line of wanting to catch up on stuff, but also not totally burn out. um, and I do feel like that'll probably be a pretty common thread on these streams because that's sort of the nature of doing art. You're especially like personal projects and stuff because the time has to come from somewhere, and usually it's a bit hard to kind of make it work. Not complaining, just kind of aware of the reality of that. So it'll be interesting to try to kind of navigate and see how much I can get done. And I am excited because the indie review show is on Monday, and so part of tomorrow I'm going to be forced to take a break and read a comic that I really dig. And so that'll actually be kind of a good like forced break sort of scenario. But also I think it'll be helpful to kind of like part of why Corey and I started that show, which you can check out at irsagency.com, was because there's a whole bunch of like these great indie comics and artwork that we're aware of that like really inspired our art and really inspire us. And so the idea of like actually checking out stuff that I'm inspired by and being able to kind of talk about it to other people, I think that'll actually be inspirational for myself as well. So it's kind of like got two functions. It'll be good content, I think, for people, and at the same time, like it should kind of, in theory, work to sort of hopefully reignite some inspiration regarding comics. So okay. Let me see. I'm trying to kind of double check this character just to make sure being slightly consistent. He's got got a tie on, and he's going to have his sort of side holster thing going on here. Got his mug of coffee. All right. This is going to be a hand as he's talking. And I'm going to try to kind of slam through these thumbnails a little bit quicker and more confidently. At the same time, I also have been doing these a lot tighter, and I've talked about this, than I usually would, because I think it'll save me time in the long run. That's the theory, of course. And what's cool is I am getting closer to like the end. We're definitely past, like far past the halfway point on what all I need to work out here. So that's pretty cool. Let's see here. This is going to be like a little photo of the police officer right here. Okay. That was not a good face there. Okay. There we go. But yeah, it is interesting, and I think it was essential to get like a little bit of rest this weekend. But it is funny, like that balance between like finding the rest you need with like getting the work you need to get done. It's kind of a weird juggling act that I'm not quite sure ever gets solved. I definitely feel like a little more juice to like kind of keep going um, after getting just a little bit of rest. So that was helpful. um, but it was funny. It's like yesterday, I was initially going to just take like a little power nap before kind of rocking the next stream and the next page. And that nap just kind of took me into the morning because I think I was pretty wiped. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, like trying to do these comics, and I do kind of feel like the story is important. I feel pretty confident and good about the first one, but it's a juggling act trying to get this thing done. I definitely have a little bit of freelance work that I need to try to get accomplished this weekend as well, and we'll just kind of have to see how that all goes. Okay, so got this. I also think I might use. There's a little trick that I like to use where I feel like, and I'm definitely falling prey to that on this page, where I tend to default to kind of making everything at a 45-degree angle. Like it's like, or I guess a 90, where, everything's straight on the horizon line. And it kind of loses some of the potential dynamic framing you can do because by just tilting the angle of the camera. So I might have to remind myself to do that just to kind of keep this interesting. I might do it now before I get into like any sort of rendering. And the trick to that I find really useful is just to kind of take, especially if you're working digitally, which luckily I'm doing on these thumbs, but I should be able to, in theory, cut this out pop it on there and just tilt it a little bit. I was also kind of surprised. Like, so my son during lunch was like asking to watch videos of foxes. And so we watched some videos of like foxes, and I had no idea that foxes make these like trippy, crazy sounds. And that was really interesting to me. I'd never really heard like foxes. Um, but they had all these videos of like foxes making these strange noises that they make. And you learn something new every day, I guess. Let's see here. All right. So we have this starting to get blocked in there. And we have this starting to get blocked in there. And I think we might be done with this panel, which is kind of cool. So I just tilted it a slight bit. And I think that'll work. Was that enough? I kind of like that a little more. Okay. All right. So there's that panel. Now we're working on the second. Second panel is going to be long and thin, I think. I can take away that previous one, I think. Well, no, I actually want to see the close-up of this officer. Okay, here he's going to be saying about 90% of happen within, about 90% of our cases happen within 1 mile of where you live. And this is going to be, I think, he's going to be drinking his coffee. And so I think, yeah, my wife is also working on kids' books in the background. So like on our usual streams, like you guys probably can't hear everything she's saying, but she was just actually commenting the detective was really nice. And that's true. He actually was a pretty nice dude. This detective I'm writing about. It's definitely a very strange scenario when you have to like go talk to police about, some crazy incidents, and it was cool to have like a person who actually kind of took us seriously. Because the first set of police, and it's definitely in the earlier part of this story, who kind of spoke to us after the whole event, were just kind of cast the whole thing aside as if like there was nothing abnormal about it and there wasn't anything they could do. And so, which makes you kind of feel a little like, well, what exactly are you supposed to do? Because I mean, your job's to like try to protect and serve the public, right? It's definitely interesting. But once we started dealing with the detective, it definitely helped a lot more, or at least they seemed a little more sympathetic and willing to kind of hear us out and give us advice and stuff. So, okay, so here we go. Got this. And we're blocking in everything that's needed. And I think that'll do it. All right, so okay, one more panel done. This next one's going to be the mug down, same shot, pretty much. And then we might be done with our first row of thumbs. Kind of cool. But it's funny thinking if somebody ever stopped by and heard me talking about the first row of thumbs and wasn't aware of like art terminology, they might think some strange things about this channel. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think like art speak sometimes can sound pretty silly. To like non-artists. It probably sounds similar to like plumbers talking to each other where they're like, yeah, you just take the U-shaped pipe. And see, I don't even know their terminology. It's impossible to do. But in case someone's wondering what I mean by thumbs, I'm not talking about the digits on a finger, although it comes from that. Like the idea of a thumbnail is to just quickly kind of jot down your composition. And then the idea of a rough is to like roughly work out your art. And so I'm doing this like hybrid of thumbnails and roughs to try to kind of cut some time out of the process. It's going to be the mug here. Maybe it'll actually, I like the idea of maybe some steam coming from the mug too. And just a little hint of the hand in that shot, and possibly like a little bit of, yes, that actually works. We're almost done with the first top of the page. So what's funny is kind of in art, it seems like when it rains, it pours, and so it's like my wife is very busy working on kids' books, And I've got the second book I got to get done. And it just kind of, it's interesting how in art that'll happen where you'll just have times where you're like too busy and then times where it can dry up entirely. Let's see here. What's that?
I hope it didn't just break our gate.
So yes, you should move. He might act again. So here's the first 3 panels are done, and we're at 30 minutes, which is not too bad. Oh, that wasn't good. So yeah. So anyhow, some of the stuff that's on my mind, I'm trying to kind of parse it out and think about it, but it mainly has to do with like I watched the impeachment trials and was sort of kind of shocked like at the lack of defense, and pretty swayed by the prosecution in the impeachment trial. And a lot of it was going over information I've already seen and footage I've already seen, but it's like when you kind of see all the evidence together, it's really hard to kind of deny that it very much seems like, you know, the president like tried to like incite an insurrection to stop the vote count of our country so that so that we you know, he would basically be able to override the will of the people, like the democratic will of the people. And it's pretty disturbing. And since this is my own show, I don't personally feel like the need to be totally silent, like when it comes to like political viewpoint and stuff. But I also don't want to just like rant and rave and make this into like a political show. And so I guess the hard part to navigate is like, you know, and I guess if you're a person who like might politically disagree, the best explanation I could give is like if you literally thought that the commander in chief of the US had actively tried to overthrow your democracy or like your leader wherever you are, maybe you're not in the US, tried to kind of perform a coup, and they basically got away with it, and like their own party didn't hold them accountable. It's a little infuriating, and so like that's where I'm like, I'm trying to not focus on those things and try to think about art. But it is pretty thought provoking and definitely very distracting in the sense of like trying to get in a zone to be creative. So yeah, who knows? Let's see here. Okay, so we have the next part. Okay. I think this might actually. Okay. So I have to knock out this type borrowed. And the night before. So I think this is going to be him in the center. And I think I'll just sort of sketch it loosely. He's got his okay. I want him to have his mug too. Okay. Okay. Almost forgot there's a couple papers that should be here. Okay, so we're working out the panel, and this will be me right here telling him about the night before. My son also made like a Valentine box thing. So we're doing I think like a remote Valentine's Day drop off for some of the kids in town that he's friends with in our group. And it was pretty adorable, like seeing that. But it's also funny because it's like, as kids, like I think they're still learning how to kind of share and stuff like that. So there was like a book in his Valentine's that like he's giving to his friends because there's going to be like a little Valentine's Day exchange, right? And he really wanted the book, and so he was like having trouble. And it's funny, you'll notice this. I think most people notice this when they have kids. It's like they're pretty sweet, but you really do have to teach them to like give things to people, because they definitely, like, if they end up with something they like a lot, it's really hard for, I think, a kid his age to like just be like cool with giving somebody something they really want. Which makes sense, because I think human beings like innately have a little bit of that anyway. Like we're all a little selfish. Um, but it was kind of, I don't know, it was cute. We had to kind of explain like you kind of want to get awesome things for people, it's a nice thing, nice thing to do. Why am I having her smile? She wouldn't be all smiley in that shot, like, oh yay, I'm happy about this. I think I'm gonna have like a look. Okay. That's not right either. Okay. Okay. Thumbnails again, thumbnails. Okay. So here we go. I'm gonna have his hair worked out. I'm trying to remember do I have a shot from this angle? I do have okay, there's a window behind them. Perfect. Okay, so working out that window and should be good to go. And actually, like, if this were really final pencils, a lot of time, like, I'm drawing these blinds, and the best way, if you were drawing this for like a finish, would be to draw the line of those blinds like directly through the characters, and then erase it from the areas it's overlapping, so you don't have like your lines kind of like meet at one end and then suddenly step down or move like they wouldn't. But in the case of this, again, it's tighter than a thumbnail, but it's not that much tighter. So I'm not overly concerning myself with that. So, okay, so there we go. We have that panel blocked out. And I do like the idea, again, I'm defaulting to kind of having these like as straight on views. Ooh, geez. Okay, straight on views, and I want to kind of tilt a little bit, I think. Oh. Also baffled by why that isn't picking up. I believe this is like all on one layer. There we go. Definitely doing some strange stuff. Okay, there we go. And maybe increase it. Yep. Kind of like how that amplifies the sense of movement and sort of makes shots that aren't necessarily the most interesting a lot more interesting. Okay. I'd like to see what all I have here. Okay. That's actually a good panel to kind of have as reference, because I do think it might be good to bring back this a little bit. This shot can come up here. Yes. Okay. And this is going to get altered a little bit to just kind of fit, but I think that'll work. So, okay. Merge down. And I'm pretty excited because if I can get like 2/3 of the way through in an hour, that's not too bad. So that might actually bode well for my thought of doing 2 of these tonight. So my hope is to knock out the thumbs for this page, and then afterwards, so his hand's just going to be flat here. Afterwards, take a little break and do possibly another live stream for the second. So we'll see how that goes. But so far, making good progress. What am I working on here? This will be like a And this should make a little more sense once I get the type in there. Okay. Okay. Let's get a little bit of this. The convenient thing about thumbnails that are digital, though, is like where you have a repeated shot like that, that's just going to be like a subtle difference. It doesn't have to be like massive reinvention of everything. All right, and there we go. So, okay, now the type is going to be, for this sequence, something more up here. So let's get that in there. So this is going to say when I stood watch over. Yep, I did need a little bit more space. Look at that. Okay. Now, this one, I think I want it to be more of a shot from behind my, like, I think I'm going to be in the foreground. He's going to be in the background here. So it'll be like an over shoulder shot. It's not too bad. I am noticing he's kind of on the left, except here, which is okay because it's like direct in the back. So we'll see if that works. It should work though, in theory. You'll also notice my son's like basketball, the back of his basketball hoop. We were also, he got so into Techno Bowl, which is like this NES football game, that we ended up playing like Techno Bowl in real life. And that was a lot of fun too. It was actually a pretty fun day. Okay. Stood watch over our door. Oh, there we go. Should say, I expected him to scold me or tell me I okay. And this one I actually want it to be, I think I need to have him, okay. It's funny when you draw a certain angle of a character that gets repeated throughout a book, like how quickly you can kind of gesturally work that out. In this case, this is a kind of newer character, so I'm not sure. Okay. It's going to be this guy. He's got his hair, sort of thing. There we go. Okay. I do want this to kind of work. Okay, there we go. And then on his arms, kind of like his shoulders are sort of hunched up in this. And this is going to be that great classic hands folded shot while he's listening and pondering. And I figured that'll exaggerate that statement of like me sort of anticipating what is this guy going to say when I'm talking about like borrowing a gun and all this other stuff, you know? So it's like, I think the goal is to kind of accentuate that kind of awkward tension for a second there. Okay. And then here he's going to have his pictures again. Like I think there's like there was one where it shows, okay, yeah, he has like a little star here. And I'm pretty excited. We're definitely about 2/3 of the way in, an hour in, which is good. This is sort of the level of speed I need to be doing these at, I think. Okay. What was that? I thought I just had that office one though. With this. Yes, okay. And then there's the police portrait here. Do you think like a light casting some shadow here be good? Okay. And we're going to just do a quick block in of this. Oh. And again, not super happy with that being straight. It should be like turned a little bit so that it has a little more movement and tension. And this is going to help me greatly when it comes to getting photo reference and doing layout for like for the final. Because if I'm already knowing like, okay, I'm going to need to like tilt this angle a little bit, it's going to help me greatly. So that is why it's good to do these things. What's interesting is Two Stories Book 1, when I did the very, very first part, I did really tight roughs. And then as I went in the books, the roughs got looser and looser, which I think actually exaggerated the time frame to make it get done on like. So I really do have high hopes this will cut the time. All right, so I have finished the first 2/3 of the page. I'm going to go take a 2-minute break. Let's see here. Okay. Although, oh, wait a minute. Actually, before I take usually I take a 2-minute break at the hour mark. But the neat thing is, because this is slightly comedic, this actually needs to repeat again. Just with like a subtle change. Can kind of fix up that nose too. So this is going to say possibly arrest me. And then I'll take my little break. Possibly arrest me. With the period, and then we should be good. All right. So that is pretty good news. We're almost there. This one's actually going to have a little more of that shot. Dark hair. Love it. Okay. I'm feeling pretty good about getting this thumbnail done. Okay. So we're almost there. I'm going to take a very brief break for about 5 seconds to refill my coffee and all that. I always do this at the hour mark, and I'll be right back to come back and finish this up, which is cool. It's going. What's up? No problem. I just wanted you to know so you didn't. All right. Coffee and then we're good. Huh. All right, so here we go. Let's finish this page up, and hopefully I can do it in maybe a half hour. Actually, this will work for humor too. So we're going to be reviewing a book by Graham Annabelle called Further Grickle. And one of the things I love actually about Annabelle's work that I'll probably be talking about on the show is like he uses repetition of frames like an animator in really good ways. And I think sometimes that can be really, really powerful. And I think this will make sense when you read the dialogue. So there's areas like that where I want this to be a small text box. I usually don't like having orphaned type where it's like, one word on a on a line, but there are some times where it's totally unavoidable. And I think in this case, it might be good. I do like the idea of the tail of the word balloon kind of pointing more towards the mouth, though. And keep in mind, these are really loose, like thumbnail tails, but here it's going to be kind of a stunned look on my face. It's kind of similar. Okay. Stunned look. And this is pretty exciting. So let's see. I expected him to scold me or tell me I was insane, possibly arrest me. It's a good idea. And then, strangely enough, it's going to kind of repeat, but this time it's dead space. And I just think this is going to make the impact of his next page kind of work very well. So it's one of the things I love about comics is timing, like meaning, I don't tend to like this sort of comic being the only thing. Meaning like if an entire comic is just like cut and paste with like a mild expression change of the character, I think that makes for fairly dull comics. But I think if you're sort of doing it for impact in a scene, especially with comedy, because I think one of the main rules of comedy is repetition. And so if you're looking for something to be slightly humorous or shocking, like I think sometimes having something repeat with like a dead panel sort of strategy where there's like subtle changes, it's not bad. I think if you did an entire book like that, it would be a little difficult to read and kind of boring to draw, honestly. When it comes to like finally drawing these pages though and doing the finished art, I definitely will be redrawing each panel. I think that's important for the scene. So what's weird is I didn't really expect that to be sort of how this wraps, but I actually think that works very successfully for this page. So I'm going to call that a day. So that is page 94 of my thumbnails and roughs, and catches me up with where I needed to be tonight on the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge. And I'll be posting this to my Instagram, Joshua Kemble. But yeah, if you liked this, hit subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button, and especially hit the bell because it'll let you know when I'm about to go live and about to live stream. I'm going to end this stream and I'll probably start another live stream in a little bit where I work on page 95. So thanks to anybody who's watched this, and I will see you guys on the next stream in possibly like 5 or 10 minutes. So stay tuned. If you're following me on social media, I'll give a heads up before going live again. And that'll do it. Thank you again for tuning in to live stream 21. All right, bye.